Have you ever caught your reflection in the mirror and wondered what changed? You are not eating more than you did 5 or 10 years ago. You have not dramatically changed your habits. But something around your midsection has quietly shifted anyway. And the frustrating part is that nothing you try seems to move it. If that sounds familiar, here is the first thing worth knowing. This is not about willpower, and it is not just aging. After 40, your body begins operating by a different set of biological rules. Hormones shift, insulin sensitivity declines, muscle mass gradually decreases, and the bacteria in your gut start to change. All of these changes work together to make one particular type of fat much harder to lose: visceral fat, the fat that builds up deep around your organs. Unlike the layer you can pinch under your skin, visceral fat wraps around your liver, pancreas, intestines, and heart. You cannot always see it and you cannot always grab it, but its presence is measurable and its effects are significant. It does not just sit there quietly, it functions like an active inflammatory organ. It releases chemicals that drive more inflammation, worsen insulin resistance, and signal your body to store even more fat in exactly that location. This is why people after 40 can eat the same calories they always have and still gain visceral fat. The problem is not the calories, it is the hormonal and inflammatory environment those calories are entering. And that environment responds directly to what you eat. The good news is that certain everyday foods do far more than simply cut calories. They work directly with the biological changes happening after 40. Lowering inflammation, improving insulin sensitivity, supporting hormone balance, protecting muscle, and helping your body burn stored fat instead of holding on to it. Today we are going through 5 of the most effective foods for improving metabolic health and targeting visceral fat specifically. None of these are expensive superfoods or trendy supplements. Most of them are already sitting in your grocery store, and a few are probably in your kitchen right now. Food number 1, fatty fish. This is at the top of the list because it targets visceral fat through more than one biological pathway at the same time. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout, and herring are among the richest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Your body cannot produce these on its own, which means the only way to get them is through what you eat. Here is why this matters for visceral fat specifically. Visceral fat does not just store energy, it actively releases inflammatory chemicals called cytokines that interfere with how your body uses insulin. Omega-3 fatty acids work at the cellular level to interrupt this inflammatory signaling. They essentially compete with cortisol for the same receptor sites on visceral fat cells. When omega-3s win that competition, the signal to store more fat around your organs gets weaker. There is also strong research behind this. A comprehensive review published in Obesity Reviews found that omega-3 supplementation combined with regular exercise reduced visceral fat significantly more than exercise alone. The omega-3s were not replacing the movement, they were amplifying its effect on the specific fat most tied to metabolic risk. Aim for 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish each week. And if fresh salmon is not in the budget right now, canned sardines and canned salmon offer nearly identical nutritional value at a fraction of the cost. Healthy eating is about what consistently ends up on your plate, not how expensive it looks when you buy it. Food number 2, avocado. Avocados spent years being misunderstood because of their fat content. Nutrition research has told a very different story over time. The fat in avocados is primarily monounsaturated, the same heart-healthy fat found in extra virgin olive oil, but avocados bring more to the table than just healthy fat. They are one of the highest fiber fruits available, with roughly 10 grams per whole fruit. That fiber feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which plays a much larger role in metabolism than most people realize. A healthier gut microbiome improves how efficiently your cells respond to insulin, which is one of the core problems driving visceral fat accumulation after 40. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition followed over 100 overweight adults for 12 weeks. The group that ate avocado daily showed a noticeably greater reduction in visceral fat compared to the control group. The effect was particularly pronounced in women. What made that finding significant was that total calorie intake was kept the same between groups. The difference came from the quality and composition of what they were eating, not the quantity. Avocado also stimulates the release of cholecystokinin, a hormone that signals fullness to your brain and helps reduce the urge to snack between meals. Half a fruit added to your first meal of the day, sliced onto eggs, blended into a smoothie, or spread on whole grain toast, is enough to capture most of these benefits consistently. Food number 3, cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and kale are not exciting to look at in the produce aisle. But what happens inside your body after you eat them consistently is genuinely worth understanding. These vegetables contain a compound called indole-3-carbinol. When your digestive system processes it, indole-3-carbinol converts into a molecule called DIM. DIM acts almost like a traffic director for estrogen in your body. It helps guide excess estrogen down a pathway that leads to excretion rather than allowing it to recirculate. This matters a great deal after 40 because of something most people are never told. Visceral fat tissue is not passive, it actively produces estrogen on its own. The more visceral fat you carry, the more estrogen gets produced. The more estrogen that accumulates, the stronger the signal becomes to store more fat in the lower belly and hip area. It becomes a self-reinforcing loop that standard diet and exercise advice rarely addresses directly. Cruciferous vegetables help break this loop by supporting the body's natural estrogen clearance pathways. They also contain a compound called sulforaphane, which activates a cellular defense system called NRF2. NRF2 is one of the most studied anti-inflammatory mechanisms in the human body. When it is activated, cells become better at managing oxidative stress and reducing the chronic low-grade inflammation that makes visceral fat so stubborn. A clinical trial examining regular sulforaphane intake found measurable reductions in inflammatory markers associated with visceral fat accumulation after 12 weeks of consistent consumption. You do not need a complicated preparation to capture these benefits. Roast broccoli with a drizzle of olive oil and garlic, steam cauliflower and serve it alongside protein, shred raw cabbage into soups or salads. One important note: overcooking cruciferous vegetables significantly reduces sulforaphane content. Light steaming or roasting until just tender preserves far more of the beneficial compounds than boiling until soft. Aim for 3 to 4 servings each week as a realistic starting point, and the variety matters less than the consistency. Broccoli 3 times a week for months will do far more for your visceral fat than eating every cruciferous vegetable once in a while. Building one reliable habit around these vegetables tends to be more effective than rotating through a complicated list of options. Food number 4, green tea. If you think of green tea as simply a lighter version of coffee, there is considerably more happening inside each cup. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, one of the most extensively studied antioxidants in nutritional science. The mechanism behind its effect on visceral fat runs through 2 distinct pathways. First, EGCG activates an enzyme called AMPK, often described as the metabolic master switch inside your cells. When AMPK is active, cells prioritize burning energy over storing it. This shifts your metabolic environment in a direction that is directly unfavorable to visceral fat accumulation. Second, EGCG inhibits an enzyme called catechol-O methyltransferase. This enzyme normally breaks down norepinephrine, a hormone that signals fat cells to release stored fatty acids. When EGCG blocks this breakdown, norepinephrine remains active longer, and fat cells receive the signal to release their stored energy for longer periods. The research supporting this is unusually specific. A 12-week study using CT imaging scans tracked participants drinking the equivalent of 4 to 5 cups of green tea daily. Visceral fat decreased measurably in this group, while total body weight remained essentially unchanged. That distinction matters enormously. The fat was disappearing specifically from around the organs, not just from general water weight or subcutaneous tissue. 3 to 5 cups daily is the range most research points toward. Drinking it 30 minutes before a meal can help blunt the insulin response to that meal. Always drink it unsweetened and brew it fresh rather than relying on bottled versions, which often contain added sugars that undermine the metabolic benefits entirely. Food number 5, eggs. Eggs have had a complicated reputation over the decades. For a long time, concerns about dietary cholesterol pushed many people to avoid them or limit them severely. The current body of research has largely moved past that concern for most healthy adults. What makes eggs particularly valuable after 40 is not just what they contain, it is what they help you hold on to. After 40, preserving muscle mass becomes one of the most strategically important things you can do for your metabolism. Here is why that matters specifically for visceral fat. Muscle tissue is metabolically active even at rest. Every kilogram of muscle you maintain burns additional calories throughout the day without any extra effort on your part. As muscle mass declines, your resting metabolic rate drops with it, giving visceral fat more opportunity to accumulate even when your eating habits have not changed. Eggs provide all 9 essential amino acids your body needs for muscle repair and maintenance. This makes them one of the highest quality protein sources available, gram for gram. But eggs also contain something less discussed, choline. Choline is a nutrient concentrated in the egg yolk that plays a critical role in liver function. Your liver is central to how your body processes and mobilizes fat. A liver that is functioning well and not overloaded with fatty deposits is far more capable of converting stored fat into usable energy. Choline supports the processes that keep your liver running efficiently, which directly supports your body's ability to burn visceral fat over time. There is also the appetite dimension. Research from the University of Missouri used functional MRI scans to observe brain activity in participants after different types of breakfast. The group that ate a high-protein breakfast showed measurably lower activity in the brain regions associated with food cravings and reward-driven eating throughout the morning. This was not about willpower or discipline. It was a direct change in brain signaling driven by what they ate at their first meal. Less craving activity in the morning means fewer impulsive food choices by mid-afternoon, which is when most people's eating habits tend to fall apart. 2 to 3 eggs as part of your first meal of the day captures most of these benefits. The yolk is not the enemy here, it is where most of the choline lives. Scrambled, poached, soft-boiled, the preparation matters far less than simply making them a consistent part of your morning. So let's bring all 5 of these together. Fatty fish, 2 to 3 times a week for omega-3s that interrupt visceral fat's inflammatory cycle directly. Avocado regularly for monounsaturated fat and fiber that improves gut health and insulin sensitivity. Cruciferous vegetables 3 to 4 times a week to support hormone balance and reduce visceral fat inflammation. Green tea 3 to 5 cups daily to activate the metabolic switch inside your cells and target visceral fat through specific biochemical pathways. Eggs at your first meal for muscle-preserving protein and liver-supporting choline that keeps your fat-burning machinery running efficiently. None of these foods is a miracle on its own. There is no single ingredient that melts visceral fat overnight, and it is worth being clear about that. What these 5 foods do is work with the specific biological changes happening in your body after 40, not against them. When you consistently fill your plate with foods that lower inflammation, improve insulin response, support hormone balance, and protect your muscle, something genuinely starts to shift. It might not happen in a week, and it will not happen in a dramatic overnight transformation. But over months of consistency, the changes show up. Energy improves, clothes fit differently, and the biological environment that has been holding visceral fat in place starts to change. You do not need to add all 5 at once. Pick the 2 or 3 you are not yet eating consistently and focus there for the next 30 days. Consistency with a few things you will actually stick to beats perfection with a plan you abandon after 2 weeks. If this helped you understand not just what to eat but why it matters for visceral fat specifically, go ahead and hit the like button. And tell me in the comments which of these 5 foods are you already eating regularly and which one are you adding first. Because the most powerful change is usually the next small one you actually make. Visceral fat did not build up overnight, and it will not disappear overnight either. But the biology that drives it is not fixed. It is responsive. Give it the right inputs consistently, and it will respond accordingly.